Okay, so number 2 out of the three-way tie is from Cameron C. Smith, who says, Bill, how effective are our guided weapons systems against a modern military with the capability to jam their guidance systems? It seems like it would be worthwhile to keep some old-school naval artillery lying around because those shells cannot be redirected. Any thoughts? Yeah, there are... when the GPS system was first installed and working, there was a lot of talk about whether or not a GPS receiver should be released to the public. And a lot of people in the military thought no, and GPS was put there basically for this purpose, for guiding weapons and so on, and for military operations. And the usefulness of it became apparent long before smartphones showed up. So I remember when GPS first appeared, the state-of-the-art in aircraft navigation was called LORAN, which is it's something that's you could get a moving map out of LORAN, and it would probably get you somewhere within a mile or two of where you are. It wasn't enough to fly precision approach and so on. And when GPS first came out, they dithered it, I think is the term. And basically what they did was they intentionally degraded the GPS's ability in a civilian unit. Actually, I think the dithering is something that they could turn on, rather. I think that's something they did to the signal. And maybe their own receivers were immune from it. But in any event, they basically, for a number of years, said, okay, you can have a GPS which will put you within a mile of where you want to be, but we're not going to have one that lets you put you within 3 feet, which apparently is the resolution now, or of where you are. And then finally, people just said, look, the benefits just outweigh the risks. And now we have, moving maps, and we have Uber, and we have all the other things, all of which would be impossible without GPS. I know that there has been serious discussions about a fairly sophisticated adversary being able to jam GPS locally. And let's just say in a very small area. Let's say within a region of 2 or 3 miles, and put a tremendous signal up there that scrambles the GPS signal. We have other means of directing weapons that are not dependent on GPS, and if the GPS system were taken out, those wouldn't affect things like our television-guided Maverick missiles or our laser-guided GBUs or all the rest of it. But the reason that we use so many GPS-guided weapons is because it's probably the biggest bargain that we've ever made. And we all remember the first Gulf War and these smart weapons, and these smart bombs were engineered to be smart bombs, and they had a infrared guider or a guidance or laser guidance. They'd track a laser target designator, or they'd track a TV image or whatever. But it didn't work in all weather conditions. If it was foggy or cloudy, they couldn't get the signal back up to the weapon. And somebody realized, wait a minute, now GPS can get these bombs there. And somebody else said, yeah, but then we have to make all these GPS bombs. And then some third guy who's smarter than the other two says, hold on, we have something like, and somebody's going to give me the number, but I want to say 50,000 surplus iron fall bombs with no guidance whatsoever. Something like some insane number of 250-pound, 500-pound, even 1,000-pound bombs that were manufactured for the Vietnam conflict. They're just iron weapons. Just drop them out of an airplane and hope they hit something. And somebody said, now hang on, if we were to make a tiny little unit that just consisted of stabilizing fins and little little ailerons on those fins, and we put the GPS unit in the back of it, for a relatively low cost, we could basically steer an iron bomb right to the target. And that's basically why we have the JDAM. That's the weapon that's been used to convert dumb weapons into smart ones. I hate to bail out of the question like this, Cameron, but I do have a lot of confidence in the fact that you're not the first person to worry about this, and neither am I. I don't know whether the military is able to encrypt that signal. I suspect there is certainly a way to do it. I would be quite shocked if there wasn't. I suspect that if things really got hot, it would be possible to deactivate the GPS system so that only military-type receivers would be able to decode it. Now, that means that you would assume the enemy would also have GPS-guided weapons. If the signal is out there, chances are they could decrypt it, although I have to tell you, with electronic encryption, it's very tough. And so that may mean that their weapons are using your guidance systems to hit your target, but that's not really the problem we're talking about. Problem we're talking about is, can our weapons hit their target? And I think I would be very surprised if it turns out that that is not true. That's that. And by the way, parenthetically, this is why, the Europeans, they're so proud of what they do, because it's better than what we do. And the only problem with their systems is that it's 40 years after we do it. We build the 747 as the most amazing aircraft ever made, in my opinion, one of them, certainly one of them. The fastest, by the way, lots and lots of power. And it's the biggest commercial airplane in the world for 40 years. And finally, they build the A380, which is bigger in some dimensions than the 747 by, 7 feet or something like that. Oh, the A380 is the most... Yeah, okay, so you built a big airplane. Did it... We flew ours in, 1970? And you did yours in 2005 or something like that. And same thing now with their GPS system, which they're calling Magellan. And they're going to put up an entire constellation of satellites. Their justification for this Magellan system is that if the U.S. GPS, I don't know what the accuracy is, somebody's going to tell me, Vipercheck will probably tell me. If the U.S. GPS system is accurate to within 3 feet or whatever, then theirs is accurate to maybe it's 3 meters for the U.S. system and theirs is going to be 1 meter. And it's like, listen, folks, the difference between 3 meters and 1 meter in any kind of a real world application is just meaningless. So why are they going to all this expense? I thought it was for national prestige, but obviously I think the nations of the European Union would like to have a system that that they get to keep the switch on and not be dependent on the United States switching the whole thing off. I'd be surprised if the Russians didn't have a GPS system either up or on their way up, for those reasons, So I get the feeling that our friend Vipercheck here could probably tell you more about what we do about GPS jamming of weapons than I could, and I'll bet there's a lot he could talk about that he can't talk about. But I have some confidence that this is not just something as simple as, oh, well, it looks like the enemy's using our GPS system, or, oh, well, the enemy has, jammed the signal. If you can jam the GPS signal, as I said, but you have a secondary backup with laser-guided weapons, and I think cruise missiles are inertial guided with a radar terminal phase, that kind of thing. So anyway, that's about all I can say about that one.